So that's Rush performing Working Man at the last show that they played together. That's way back in August of 2015. When Rush drummer and lyricist Neil Peart died in 2020, a lot of people thought, you know what, that's it. We're never going to see this legendary Canadian rock band on stage ever again. But then last week, surviving members Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson announced that Rush is going to be celebrating the band's 50th anniversary with a North American tour and a brand new drummer. Tickets for that go on sale tomorrow. Annie Zaleski was at a top secret press conference in Cleveland. That's where Rush broke the news. She's with me now. Annie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. Listen, before we get to this announcement, just set the scene a little bit for us, because secret press conference, that sounds very fun. It's happening in Cleveland, home to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's a Rush connection to the city. What is that connection?
So back in the 1970s, there was a big rock radio station called WMMS, and they basically broke a ton of artists before they were big: Springsteen, Bowie, Roxy Music, and Rush was also a favorite of their radio station. There was a music director named Donna Helper who had a really good connection with Canadian record labels and promotion people, and she got slipped a copy of their debut record before, when they were on Moon Records. They were still kind of unknown. And she listened to it, was like, yeah, I think this is pretty good. And she heard Working Man. And she was like, I think this would really resonate well with the people of Cleveland, just because it's very blue collar. And she put it on the air, and it was a sensation. I think they had copies of the records at import record stores, and it basically broke them in America. They ended up getting their record deal. And obviously they became kind of the global act that they were. Because they had American support there first. And then Donna, they've never forgotten Donna. Donna's been at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. She's been in documentaries. And so, she's remained a member of the Rush family.
That's a really deep connection. And also, like, it's Canadian bands were sort of trying to study how to break into the United States. Like, there's a long history of this. So to have that deep connection happen through like one specific person and one specific radio station, that's a really big thing. But then fast forward to now, right? You're invited to this press conference. You're told, hey, Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson are donating instruments to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What happened next?
So, there was so much secrecy. Like, we had to sign an NDA. We had to put our phones away. And so but I'm like, it was amazing, though. And so, they were talking with Jeff Edgers from the Washington Post, and they were having a conversation. Someone asked Geddy, they took audience questions. Someone asked Geddy about the Blue Jays, whether he thought they'd win the World Series. So we talked about baseball a bit. And then they got a card from a CB from Highland Park, Illinois. And my husband, who was there, said, that's Cliff Bernstein, from Q Prime Management, who happened to be there. And the question was something to the effect of, would you all ever go on the road again? Would you ever tour? And Geddy and Alex kind of hemmed and hawed, and then they were like, yeah, we think we'll do that. And obviously people were stunned. Because people thought they were kidding, because, they're very funny people. Yeah. And then they were like, no, we're going to do that. And the place erupted. Everyone just started cheering, and, they were filming everyone. And it was like, I never thought they would tour again. It was extremely unexpected.
Okay, how did they talk about how they arrived at that decision? Like, on stage, did they say, okay, this is how we came to the decision that, you know what, we want to go back on the road?
Yeah, it was a gradual thing from what I gather. Geddy and Alex had played together at the Taylor Hawkins tributes. They played with Les Claypool. And so they played together, and obviously they've remained great friends. Yeah. And so they basically said it was, in interviews, though, both Geddy and Alex were sort of like, I don't think this will ever happen again. So what it sounds like is that just, in recent times, they had started jamming together. They hang out at each other's houses, and they started jamming on Rush songs. And Alex, I think, especially said that, I think he missed the challenge. He missed the kind of of playing these songs. And, and among other things, too, so the Taylor Hawkins tributes were in L.A. And that was in the same place, or in the same city where Rush's final show was. So it was kind of a lovely sort of bookend moment for Geddy. But they also said that Alex is healthy again. Alex has talked here and there about having health issues, and he actually couldn't tour because of that. But he's healthy again. And so everything, it seems, kind of fell into place where it made a lot of sense.
You mentioned Taylor Hawkins. Taylor Hawkins, of course, the late drummer of Foo Fighters, and there was a giant outpouring of grief and tributes after his death. Same thing as what happens, of course, after Neil Peart died, because Neil Peart is everyone would have said irreplaceable. It's really hard to sort of imagine Rush without Neil Peart. Let's talk a little bit about the person who's going to be replacing him. Have a listen to this. Tell you this, I couldn't do that because that sounds very stressful to me. So that is Anika Niles from Germany. She's going to be replacing. She's going to be on this tour. She's going to be playing drums with Rush. What do we know about Anika? Like, what makes her the person for this role?
So she had been touring with Jeff Beck, and I guess Getty's bass tech had also been on tour with Jeff, and so he got to see her drum every night. And I think told Getty, like, you need to check her out. Like, she's incredible. And I mean, you look at even just that clip, she's very, Neil obviously had very complex drumming, but there's feel to it too. There's emotion behind it. And you can tell that she kind of has that as well. And in drumming circles, she is very well known. Like I had a lot of people just be like, oh, she's amazing. That's a great choice.
Right.
So she also is, very well respected already.
You can imagine, though, like when people hear, okay, Neil Peart is not here. There's a lot of people who say after you lose a crucial member of a band, there's just going to be some misgivings. People are like, I'm not so sure about this. How is this news landing with fans of Rush? The idea that, Rush is going back on the road. There'll be a different drummer that's not Neil.
I've been very surprised. I think it's been very positive. I think because, Neil's family gave their blessing and made it very clear, which I think is important. And then I think, people are excited to hear those songs again. And, the fact that Getty and Alex really respect her, I think goes a long way as well. And so I've been very pleased by the reaction from fans.
So there's that reality. And then there's the other reality of, hang on, Rush is going on the road. That's going to mean that tickets are going to cost something. And so those complaints have already begun, right? The idea that it's going to cost several $100s just to get a very bad seat in the building. There's a lot of people who are saying, you know what, there's not enough dates that are scheduled. We're kind of worried about the fact that they're only scheduled to play Toronto at the moment. So talk to me a little bit about how the reaction is to the anticipated ticket prices and the inevitability that they're going to be so expensive.
I think since the last time Rush has toured, I think, we all know that ticket prices have just gone up exponentially everywhere, especially classic rock shows in the last couple of years. That the Rush ticket prices are not necessarily worse than a lot of other things. I just paid an arm and a leg for My Chemical Romance tickets. Let me tell you that. And I did not pay that 20 years ago. So that's the unfortunate reality now. And I think a lot of people who maybe haven't gone to shows in a while might not have realized that. But it's, it's really expensive to go to shows now, arenas and stadiums.
I take that point, the idea that if you haven't been to a big show in a little while, there might be a bit of a sticker shock, when you return to going to concerts again, let alone, the idea that Rush touring again, that's a really exciting thing. Okay, so Annie, where I want to pick up is actually, if you don't mind, I would like to play you a little clip real quick.
Sid and I have gotten pretty good at a couple of Rush songs.
What do you mean, like fast-paced rock?
No, like Rush, like the band Rush.
I don't know them.
The Holy Triumvirate. Wait, you don't know Rush?
No.
You don't know Rush, the band?
Mm-mm.
Exit the Warrior, Today's Tom Sawyer?
No.
That's Paul Rudd, Rashida Jones. The movie is I Love You, Man. Unfortunately, I can recite too many of those monologues off by heart. It's a movie, though, that I think spends a fair bit of time, maybe one of its main through lines, reinforcing the idea that Rush is a guy thing. It kind of keeps returning as a motif in that. You are one of the many, many women who love Rush and their music. Talk to me about the significance of the band having a woman as a drummer in this moment, and maybe the ways that changes how people perceive the band, but also the fan base itself.
So it's interesting because I think Annika being in the band, I've seen all these horrible jokes like, oh, there'll at least be one woman at a Rush show, which just kills me. Yeah, yes. I'm the one in all the comments saying, responding to that. But I think people forget is that they've always collaborated with women. Alex Lifeson's band, Envy of None, who is amazing, very shoegazy, has a female singer. Amy Mann guested on Time Standstill back in the 80s. So they've always worked with women musicians. And obviously Donna Halper discovered them. Their fan club is very women driven. You go to any event, I went at the Rock Hall several years ago, Getty and Alex actually did a book signing, tons of women. So I don't know where sort of the stereotype came about that it's men only, but nothing could be further from the truth. And so I actually do hope that, Annika being there, there might be some young musicians who might be like, oh, she's amazing, I'm going to go see her, and sort of like try to dispel that stereotype that's been there for many, many years.
Well, I'm relieved to have that. I'm relieved to have you on the show. Thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much. Annie Zaleski is a music journalist based in Cleveland. You can read that report that we've been talking about on the Rush reunion at Variety. And the public on sale for this tour includes 4 dates in Toronto next August, begins this Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, my name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This show is called Commotion. This show will see you tomorrow.